June the 28th, 2024. Guys, you're looking at the K index, and this is a 3-day chart. These are 4-hour blocks. June 26th is here, 27th starts there, and the 28th started here. That's today. Now we have a very elevated K index. We're actually having a G4 magnetic storm that caught the researchers off guard totally. You had some aurora spread and things like that, but what happened, guys, is I showed you a few days ago there was a massive filament diagonally across the sun on the Earth-facing side. And I said if these things release at the right time, usually we will get a pretty good quake from them. And it released, but they thought, as they were predicting this, that we wouldn't have any kind of planetary effects from it. But they're saying the K-index, and by extension the planetary K-index, are used to characterize the magnitude of geomagnetic storms. KP is an excellent indicator of disturbances in the Earth's magnetic field and is used by the SWPC to decide whether geomagnetic alerts or warnings need to be issued for users who are affected by these disturbances. Many of us are, but they're saying the principal users affected are the electrical power grid, spacecraft operations, users of radio signals that reflect off or pass through the ionosphere, and observers of the aurora. And like I said, they're being reported now. But what happened, guys, was when that filament released, and I'm going to go back and see if I can find that video before this video is over, that we had a 7.2 quake when this thing started piling up and it hit down in Peru, guys. That's a strong earthquake, and it's in that the Peruvian trench is right offshore. And it's a major fault zone. It's very deep. But it hit right there just offshore. I did not see any tsunami warnings whatsoever. But again, let's take a look at some of that information. Now, this is an SDO image, and it goes back to the 24th. And I think this is the day I did the video because I showed this filament right there launch from the surface of the sun, the resulting hydro flares is pulled back to the sun. But this one, I said, if this one releases from the sun, we better watch it. And that's exactly what has happened. Let's play this forward. There's your first release, but this one starts to untangle itself from the sun. Watch that. And then parts of it that do not launch are pulled back into the sun again by the gravity, and you see an explosion across the surface as it reconnects with the sun right there. It's called a hydro flare, secondary flare. But guys, that's what happened. Now let's look at the national. Again, the USGS 7.2, 8 kilometers west of Antequera, Peru. This happened just after midnight UTC time, 36:37. Right there, guys. As that energy was building up from that flare, we saw the solar wind pick up, solar wind speed, the density, and the temperature all picked up at the same time. But here's our quake right there. It's 7.2. And it was 28 kilometers deep. Let me pull this up. I'll show you what I was talking about. This is the Peruvian trench. It's very deep. It runs down along the coast here, all the way up through there. And guys, if you've never seen any of the Discovery type videos of this area of the world, it's incredibly beautiful. Some of the most beautiful places on Earth. I've never seen anything quite like this. But anyway, you had a couple of secondary quakes here. But look how close to shore it was. That may have had a lot to do with why there was no tsunami warnings. Now, you've got a very rugged coastline. You can see it. But you're not far from that deep trench. And more than likely, you've got a tectonic plate line going through here. And one side of this is pushing under the side that you see to the right. And that friction builds up, pressure builds up. And then you have an outside influence, like pressure from the sun, which we've documented now for 10 or 12 years, that causes the pressure on our planet. And so that's what we had. Luckily, again, no tsunami warnings that I could find anywhere. And you can click right here on this wave page, and it'll tell you no tsunami warnings. So you folks down there, you got fairly lucky. Again, I'm not sure about any kind of shaking, but there's no major city right in this area. I don't know about small villages and things like that. It's very barren because of the rugged mountains. But there, you can tell here, there's some planning going on. You've got some type of small city or village here. as it all drains down. But guys, again, I don't have any reports of major building damage yet. You may have. All of this is just kind of coming in now. But we'll look at the space weather information on the solar wind speed real quick, and I'll end this video. And let me say this. Later this afternoon, after the 3 or 4 p.m. update from the National Hurricane Center, we're going to look at those storms. Not a lot of change. We do have a third one now involved. That's the one that we saw coming off the coast of Africa last night. Now there's 3 storms. Just depending on the high pressure, though, in the area, how these things will model out. Will they go into Mexico? Will they turn up into the Gulf? That will be on the afternoon report. But right now, let's look at the solar wind information. Now, this is also a 3-day chart. It started back right here. You see it goes 0, 100 to 12, then the next day, and we're in today. You can see where the temperature of the solar wind increased here, and then we started seeing this build up of solar wind speed through this. This is live, guys, by the way. The day is not over with. And then we saw a build up in the density, and that density more than likely is what caused it. You can have very high solar wind. Usually your density will be inverted on a chart from that, because the faster the wind, the less the density, because you're thinning out the particles. But here it was so thick from that large filament, again, many times larger than our planet, probably 60 or 70 times the size of Earth, just in that filament. So as all of this built up, we got our 7.2 quake today. But again, guys, that's what I see happening. And again, as soon as they do the late updates, because really that's the one that matters when they're still this far offshore. But watch for that. We're watching this. You watch it, guys. It's a heads up. Be safe.